All right, hello and welcome to Run It Back on the Raptors Republic Network. I'm your host Zulfi Sheikh, as always, joined by Kyle Ramnarine and Cody Wiles. Boys, how are you doing today, Kyle? How you been?
Doing good, doing good. Excited to see y'all today.
Yeah, you're back with us. So I'm glad that
Yes,
you're
sir.
back. We can be a
Excited.
trio. We're gonna be a trio once again. Cody, how's your week been? I know you've been to a couple games for the 905, so that's been exciting.
Yeah, it's been fun, Z. Yeah, we'll get to the 905 in a little bit, but Kyle, glad you're back. Missed you. So happy that, we can all be reunited.
Or should I be
All
calling
right.
Zophie Z?
Yeah,
I
that's
know,
that
right?
that,
It's
that
still
that was a
throwing me
new
off a
thing
little
since
bit.
you've been gone. That's a new thing. It's
Yeah,
sticking.
but it looks like we're sticking with it. But yeah, we got a lot to go over, boys. We're going to be obviously recapping Raptors basketball, a couple returns. Some people may be close to returning soon, so that's always going to be fun to talk about. And like Cody mentioned, we're going to have the 905 report as well, breaking everything down. And then looking forward to next week's schedule. But before we get there, as always, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. We have a lot of new people coming to the channel, checking out our content, which is awesome. We love to see the community growing, but we want you to stay and keep seeing that content. So subscribing goes a long way for that. And like we've mentioned before, until November 30th, Raptors Republic is running a survey where we want to hear your feedback and input. Again, what you like, what maybe you don't like. How can we make Raptors Republic your go-to spot for coverage and all the work that we're doing to be seen? And again, we'll make it worth your while. For 2 minutes of your time, you're entered to win $250 gift card from Fanatics. With all the new gear that the Raptors have, it could be a good chance to get your hands on some of it. And there's multiple entries allowed. So the more surveys you fill out, the more chances you get at one of these $250 gift cards. So make sure you check the link in the description for all of that information. But we're not going to take any more time away from talking about Raptors basketball. You know why we're here. Let's run it back.
Like always, we kick things off by recapping action from the entire week, and it was the most successful week of action for the Raptors this season, if we're counting wins at least. Picking up back-to-back wins over the Pacers and Timberwolves before wrapping things up against the Cavaliers. Raptors action began by welcoming Pascal Siakam and his Indiana Pacers back to Toronto. And while fans were happy to see number 43 back in the building, the players' welcome wasn't as nice. The Raptors took care of business in the first half, leading by as many as 22 points thanks to the superpower duo of RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl. Barrett finished with a season-high 39 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists, carving up the Pacers everywhere. The Maple Mamba was 13 from 21 from the floor, getting to the line 12 times as well. Meanwhile, Jakob put up his third straight double-double, racking up 30 points and 15 rebounds. With no Miles Turner in the lineup, the big Austrian got to work inside, knocking down 13 of his 18 attempts and helping keep the Raptors ahead. Toronto did see the lead slip away in the second half, largely thanks to 10 turnovers in the third quarter, finishing with 23 giveaways for 24 points. A Benedict Mathurin layup helped it made a 106-99 game halfway through the fourth, but thankfully Raptors were able to withstand the late pressure from the Montreal native. A 5-0 run got the Raptors back up by double digits, led by RJ Barrett knocking down his 4-3 of the game in order to cruise to a big win. The victory snapped a 7-game losing streak for Toronto, the team's first win in over 2 weeks. From there, the Raptors stayed put in Toronto for their next game, playing host to Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. And if that didn't hype you enough, the team showed off their Vince Carter-inspired City Edition jerseys and court, and both were very well received by the franchise. Folks asking to make the classic-themed court a permanent fixture to the team. Do y'all agree? And if that wasn't enough, the Raptors got a big boost entering the game as Scottie Barnes made his return to the lineup after missing 11 games due to an orbital fracture. Sporting some neat shades, the Raps star impacted the game as best as he could while on a minutes restriction. Barnes finished with 17 points on 5 of 11 shooting to go with 6 assists and 3 rebounds. But more than anything, his impact on the defensive end was clear as day. He returned to the role as a backline sweeper for the Raptors, directing teammates into good spots while stepping up to help disrupt things. Meanwhile, RJ Barrett continued his scoring excellence, this time showing he can be the same dominant player even with Barnes sharing the floor with him. Barrett finished with a game-high 31 points on an efficient 10 for 14 shooting, and again finding his way to the line 12 times. He was able to create both with and around Barnes, and the fit looked kind of snug. And the duo played an instrumental role for the Raptors in this one, as both Barnes and Barrett helped spark a 13-1 run that turned into a 3-point deficit into a 9-point lead with less than 3 minutes left. Barnes scored 6 points during that stretch before Barrett rocked Scotiabank Arena after throwing down a lob pass from Grady Dick.
Grady dribbles out of traffic. Grady up to RJ! Grady leads the charge!
The Raptors came out on top, winning back-to-back games for just the first time all season. Meanwhile, not counting a road win against the Raptors in Tampa, the Timberwolves have not beat the Raptors at home in Toronto since 2004. That's 20 games in a row. The last win coming when Vince Carter played for the Raptors still is just insane. The good vibes only seem to last as far as the confines of the Scotiabank Arena. However, as the Raptors left the city to start a 4-game road trip by taking on the NBA-leading Cleveland Cavaliers, and the talent gap between both squads showed early. The Cavs torched the Raptors for 38 points in the opening frame, shooting 6 for 9 from downtown while also making 8 for 10 shots at the rim. Meanwhile, Toronto hit 2 for 12 attempts in just the opening 12 minutes. And while the Raptors did trail by 16 after the first, they were able to cut the deficit down as the game went on. In the second quarter, they opened the frame on a 19-9 run, and it was largely thanks to the play of Jonathan Mobo off the bench. The rookie was making plays on defense and offense, swatting shots while also working on the short roll to get some push shots to fall. He finished the half with 11 points and ended up setting a new career high, 13 points with 7 rebounds, a steal, and a block. The Raptors cut the lead down to as few as 3 points in the second half after Jamal Shed hit back-to-back threes, but they couldn't get much closer than that. Toronto entered the fourth trailing by 6 points, but Donovan Mitchell and Ty Jerome helped spark Cleveland a 10-1 run that iced the ballgame. Both Mitchell and Jerome scored 26 points as Donovan hit 5 threes while Ty knocked down 4 of his own off the bench. The Cavs stay undefeated at home, now 10-0, while the Raps remain the only team in the NBA without a road win. That brings us to the end of the week. Toronto finishes 2-1 and now 4-13 on the season, while jumping up a couple spots to the 13th spot in the Eastern Conference. Let's break it all down.
All right, boys. If we're looking at this in terms of wins and losses, it seemed like a pretty successful week for the Raptors, a winning week, and it honestly might be their first winning week all season so far, if I had to look back at it. And there's obviously a lot of conversations to be had in different aspects of what went down. But Coty, we'll start with you. What was one of your biggest takeaways that stood out this week?
Yeah, well, for me, it happened later in the week when Scottie Barnes came back, but point Scottie. I don't know if about you guys, I didn't see it coming when Scottie would return that Davion Mitchell would be going to the bench and, they'd be running Scottie Barnes at point guard with, RJ Barrett getting some on ball, some more ball handling creation responsibility. That was news to me and I like it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think for me it kind of ties into what my takeaway is. But to start off, it's like point Scotty's a thing that they've thrown out in the past and they've tried, but like it didn't always work, especially last season because the spacing between Jakob Pascal when he was here and Scotty just didn't always work. It was kind of a vortex at times, and I don't know if the creation for all of them kind of made sense together. But now, like with just Jakob there, he's able to free up Scotty in these spaces. Again, RJ Barrett is kind of like a secondary creator at times. He knows how to move around Scotty pretty well, at least in this early sample size. So point Scotty has been pretty good so far. You want to see kind of what that's going to look like when Emmanuel quickly returns, because that's really going to be the test of this. But that kind of speaks to my point. In the early goings, you're starting to see what the full picture is. All the pieces aren't there. But my biggest takeaway is that when these guys are healthy, you're going to get an idea of really what this full picture of this barbecue trio is, because that's the foundation for this team. That's what Masai Ujiri and this front office have chosen to go all in on, is with these 3 guys. And then you can add a Grady Dick into that to some capacity. But we haven't really gotten a full look at it. Last season, the team was injury ravaged. They barely played together. Maybe it was like 20 odd games. Again, this season, we already know as early as the first game, like just injuries got in the way. And we haven't seen this barbecue trio on the court together. So for me, the biggest takeaway is they're starting to get healthy. We know Bruce Brown is potentially back sometime during this next road trip. Emmanuel quickly seems to be doing solo work. He should be, you hope, back in the next couple of weeks. So when you start getting these bodies back, I want to know what this roster is like. Coming into the season, I said I think this team can be around that 30 win mark where their over-under total is, just because I think they're talented enough to do it. And whether you think that's good or bad for tanking odds and whatnot, I think that's a separate conversation. But like, I want to know like how this team pivots, or do they go in a different direction? They've been in all these close games, but like, are you going to start tanking because odds matter and stuff? So I want to see that full picture and how it goes, Kyle. But like, obviously a big part of that picture has been RJ Barrett. And I think you mentioned how you think that he has a leap in him this season that's valid of some recognition. So I kind of want you to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, like I mentioned it at the beginning of the year, like I truly believe RJ could have took the All-Star leap this year, and I think he has, but it's kind of conflicting with me too, because I know the team has been dealing with injuries. We're not seeing a full Raptor squad here. Is the reason RJ Barrett's averaging nearly 24 points, is it because of the injuries? And that's probably why. But looking back at his last games, I know he struggled a little bit today against the Cavs, but he had 31 against Minnesota, 39 against Indiana, 25 against Boston. So I said myself, I believe he could average 25 points a game for the season from what I saw last season. And I think he's doing it well. Like he's one of the scorers. He's shown off his playmaking ability, and he's impressed me in all of these games so far. It just, and I want to ask it to you guys too. Like, when we get a full Raptor squad, do you think, I know Samson mentioned it a bit too in his videos, will the hierarchy change again? Because right now it seems like it's Scottie, RJ, but do you think that's meant to shift around right now?
Well, I mean, before the Cleveland game tonight, which we were recording this after, his last 4 contests, Barrett was, I mean, he was making a good case for me, number 2, fellas. 29.3 points, 8 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. And him and Jakob have both really been really good since, Scottie and Quickly have missed more time than usual. Now that Scottie's back, Zulfi, we just kind of see it. I mean, that's just it. Like we're hypothesizing, but
Yeah.
it's really not going to matter till we see it, because that's all we can do, because they've barely played together since Quickly and Barrett were acquired from New York.
Yeah, and like if you think like again, quickly is such a big part of this puzzle that changes all of this because he is your starting point guard. He is your franchise point guard, which you've paid him to be moving forward. So like we love seeing RJ Barrett being able to play make, taking that leap as a passer, and with Scottie Barnes out there, he again RJ is a bit of a secondary creator working off Scottie, but like I think it's very safe to hypothesize that's going to look very different with Emmanuel quickly out there, especially in crunch time situations. He's going to be operating a lot of the pick and roll. How is he going to be used? And again, yes, traditionally in New York when he was there, he was used off ball quite a bit. But like in Toronto, they've kind of had him on the ball a lot more, and he's taking a ton more threes because he's arguably the Raptors' best shooter from the perimeter. So like obviously he's going to need his looks and touches to get involved. So I go back to that point. Like you need to wait and see the full picture, and it's exciting to see what these guys are taking as individual leaps. And when you're a bad team, that's okay to see them just work individually. But eventually, if you do want to take that step, you're going to have to see them work in conjunction with each other. And does that mean that one person has to be left out of the mix to make it work or not? We don't know yet. But at least we do know that these guys, as individual players, have been pretty talented so far.
I mean, yeah, like if just picture this. Like they're finally getting healthy now. Like we're just getting into it. Like Scottie's back, Jacoby Walter's back. He's played twice now for the 905, both on minute restrictions. Like you mentioned, Sophie, Bruce Brown is projected to make his season debut. He's was listed as out for tonight's game against Cleveland due to reconditioning, so he's close. Uh, Kelly Olynyk is doing non-contact. Emmanuel quickly is doing some solo work. Fernando was back from an ankle sprain tonight. Like now we're finally coming around to it, but then Grady leaves the game against Cleveland with a left calf soreness. So it's it's like 2 steps forward, 1 steps back when it comes to the injuries. But Kyle, I think we'll get there eventually.
I hope, honestly, because I believe in this team so much. I can't stress that enough. Like if we're seeing what they can do, like, and we've talked about this before, against good teams having close finishes. Yeah, they're not closing the games out, but again, the team is injured. If we get IQ back, we have RJ, we have Scott, we have a whole squad. I generally think this team can be a playoff team. It might not be contending, but it'll be entertaining to see. They're not gonna. It won't be a tanking team. They won't be a lottery team. But we've seen flashes of their potential, and if Jakob can keep this up, Grady keeps developing. We got Jacoby Walter on the come up. Like this is such a promising team, and I know it's not like an OKC level, but like I feel that these players can develop and be something truly exciting. I don't know how you feel about a fully healthy squad though, Zulfi.
So this I'll kind of throw it back to you guys because like I already mentioned it. When this team is fully healthy and if they're not purposely trying to tank, which is debatable because maybe they are at some point, like I think they're around that 30 win mark. So I'm kind of curious to go to you two, and I'll start with you, Cody. Is like, I'll ask a two-parted question. Like, one, do you think that they are around that higher or lower? Where would you put it? And do you think they should kind of go for that 30 win mark, or should they kind of purposely tank to kind of help their lottery odds? Because obviously that's more of a future building question. But like, where do you see that situation?
I believe my prediction before the season started was like 20, anywhere from 22 to 24 wins, like 20, somewhere in that area. And I stand by that. I think it'll still be around there just because they've banked so many losses to this point. Like the tank's been pretty ethical, all things considered, with like just they've gotten unlucky with the injuries and they've been playing it safe with them. So they strung back-to-back wins together for the first time this season this week. So, they're things are starting to come together, but there is a balance of, yeah, you want the top lottery odds possible. But like we were just talking about, if seeing what the whole team together looks like and it ends up costing them a couple losses and them getting some more wins, I think that's a fair trade-off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I'll have to agree right there, like 24-ish wins around there. Just seeing, because again, we don't know what the team's gonna look like fully healthy. We don't know if, knock on wood, if there are gonna be any more injuries. I feel like, I know you were thinking about like we might have seen the full picture already. I feel like might be the moral of the story of the season so far. Like we're playing capture the flag right now for Cooper Flag. We're trying to we're trying to land that, and it's been a fun team to watch, And I just think like 25-ish might be their cap for the season. It's sad to say, but it's just like they've been hit with this injury bug and just bad luck.
yeah. Like I think the thing what I struggle with is that like when this team is fully healthy, I don't totally consider them a super young team. Like yes, they are for the most part. You have your core that's like under 25, but again, RJ Barrett's on a second contract now. Emmanuel quickly and Scottie Barnes are going to be on a second contract, and some of your key players in a Jakob Pertl, Bruce Brown, and Kyle Olynyk when they're healthy. Like those are veteran players. Chris Boucher. So I'm like, I don't really see these guys necessarily wanting to lose all that much. Maybe they bought into this. Maybe they understand what the situation is and it's going to be better for them long term. But I think lately, especially after the Raptors got these back to back wins, we all saw how much of an impact it really had on that team actually winning a couple games and like what that means. Like at a certain point, like these guys just don't want to keep losing all the time. So I think that's where I struggle with. Like if this team is fully healthy, we're seeing they have all this talent, and I see more of these games falling their way as they go. So I think the thing that I struggle with is like at a certain point, if they are healthy and you see them continuing to play this way and some of these wins start piling up, which again, I don't think they're going to necessarily pile up to that point, is like you're going to have to start making conscious decisions of how you finish these games because then it's going to start mattering in terms of the lottery odds and stuff. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes as the season goes on because right now it's fun because it's super early. But once you're later into the season and then guys are getting quote unquote injured or sitting out and whatnot, and they're losing games and it's not looking as pretty, then I think that the narrative is going to start changing quite a bit on this, and we're going to see how that goes. But I think that's going to be a wait and see approach until they are healthy. But I want to go back to you, Cody. Did you have any other things that stood out to you from this week?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered pretty much everything. I mean, the team, this is some of the best basketball they're playing right now. And it's no coincidence that they are starting to get healthy and that's when they're playing the best basketball. So everybody knew by the way they were playing without basically the big three and plus for the season that they're one of the better 4-13 teams now that I've ever seen. So it's no surprise that they are stringing some wins together here with uh, the players back and they pushed the best team in the league. They played pretty well against Cleveland tonight, so they're well on their way to winning some games here.
Yeah, and in that game, a couple rookies did stand out. I think if you watch that game, you'll see Jonathan Mobile had a couple really good minutes. Jamal Shed hit a couple threes that helped the Raptors cut it close for a little bit there. But they also had some fun with the 905 this past week. So well, we're gonna jump into our 905 report now and go into coverage. But Cody, I'm gonna throw it to you because you were on the ground there for some of the 905 coverage as the home opener happened. So give us a quick recap of what the last week for the 905 has been like and what you've seen.
Yes, so it's been a fun week. Two home games already now. Just got back from the second one tonight, and they snapped the 5 game skid tonight. Lost the home opener to the Long Island Nets, where they just got ran out of the gym pretty much. A 25-2 run by Long Island in the third quarter. Basically, they just overwhelmed the 905. That marked their fifth loss, and then tonight they respond. Drew Jones making some very good adjustments in between games, like he told us he would, and they looked pretty good, and that was with no Jamal Shed, who was up with the team. Jonathan Mobo, who did not end up playing in the home opener, I guess is just because he was in the Raptors rotation, and they were just kind of getting him down there. They got their name introduced, typical home opener stuff. So he got to feel part of the team, and then Jameson Battle was also with the Raptors. So this was just Jacoby Walter and basically the 905 team without DJ Carton, who uh, like he's been out with a left foot strain for 3 or 4 games now. So overall, they played their best game offensively right now. So things are turning up. But I'm interested to hear what you guys thought. Like Kyle, what do you think's been your biggest takeaway for the 905 this week?
I think Kennedy Chandler, like just today with the W, they got 22 points, 12 assists, and 5 rebounds. He's really stood out to me, and I want to go over his own stats, and I want to take a look at it for myself. And like compared from his last year, he played 16 games and he averaged 12.9 points. Now he's played 7 games and he's averaging 18.9. So clearly there's a jump. Clearly there's some sort of growth here, and I like that he didn't have Shed today, so he kind of took the offense into his own hands. He let which I say the playmaking, commanded the floor, and he was scoring here and there. He showed off everything he could do. And when the first season first started, he wasn't someone I was eyeing at first, but now with his high level of play and his playmaking, I'm looking into him a bit more. He's kind of getting me interested, especially right now if the Raptors if they're not going the Shed route, if they need a backup PG. What do you guys think about Chandler?
I think it's tough in the sense that like his path is going to be very similar to what a Javon Freeman Liberty was with the Raptors last season. He's more of a combo guard. He can pass. He's had some really high assist games. I think in this last one he had 12 assists as well for the 905 in their win against Long Island. But he does get the blinders on it sometimes, and like sometimes it's looking great. He's willing to get to the rim and stuff, but again at the NBA level, that it's a very different game. We saw it with Javon Freeman Liberty. He could take all the shots he wants in the G League, but when he gets up there, they're keeping him in the corners or at the wings, and he's shooting threes and just trying to play defense. So it's a very different look, especially for an undersized point guard. So I'm not 100% there yet with you, Kyle. I think he's great, but like Coty mentioned, DJ Carden's been out for a bit. Jamal Shed wasn't in this game. So Kennedy Chandler has really decided to take the reins, especially when Brandon Carlson left. Those were a lot of shots that went away from this 905 team that Kennedy Chandler is very willing to take. So we'll see how that goes. But I think my biggest takeaway is one, being at home after starting your season 2 weeks on the road. I think it made a difference. Obviously, in that first game, it didn't end up resulting in a win, but Darko Rakovic talked about it. Having all the fans there, having the team come out and support, I think it meant something for them. It kind of gave them a bit of boost. And then once all those like emotions settled in a bit by the second game, you saw them put a better performance together. Coty, you mentioned it. Drew Jones said by the next game, I'll have adjustments ready and they will be able to respond. And within the game, you saw it a little bit. So there's a bit more continuity there. And I think that made a big difference for them. But Coty, like, was there anything else that you kind of wanted to touch on from the 905, being at these games, seeing what was going on live?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to get into over Shamshay a little bit because when you guys get the chance to see him in person, and I would recommend if anybody has any interest in him, go watch him in person. Uh, It he moves really well, man, and I think he's played great. Like I'm asking Drew every chance I get about Shamshay, and everything that he said has been positive reviews, especially defensively, where they like the effort he's putting in. It's all the stuff about how hard he's working, and they like what he's seen so far and the growth he's already made in such a short period of time. Drew himself has said the offense is still a work in progress, which is clear to see, but man, the athleticism pops, the shot blocking is really popping right now. He is blocking shots left and right, and he's contesting everything. So I mean, with Brandon Carlson gone, he has stepped into the starter's role and has played pretty well. So what have you guys seen from? And not to mention, he's 18. He turns 19 on December 30th. He has like almost the latest birthday you could
Him
have.
and LeBron share like a super late birthday together.
Yeah. So what have you guys seen of Shamshay? Because I know he's going to be a point of interest for a lot of people, and I think for relative to expectations, he's exceeded.
Yeah,
Like
Kyle, I don't know. I will talk about Orshamshay forever, so you can go first if you want.
I was gonna say, like, I noticed like he's been picking it up. He's been like figuring it out his role on the team. He did struggle. I think it was this week. He might have had like 6 fouls. I can't remember. It was a game this week. But like he like you said, he's moving well. He's playing defense. He's showing all the right steps to make his way and evolve in the NBA. And like I know he's getting his name out there when in the basketball group chat people are sending random clips of this guy, not even from the 905 account. And I'm like, you guys don't know about my boy, but like, he's been impressing me. It's like it's not same thing on my approach. I'm not going to nitpick too much again because he's super young. He's still learning the game. He's still learning his place. But from what we've seen so far, he's impressive. I'm excited to see his future too as well.
Yeah, like Coty, I think the big thing you mentioned is like if you do have an interest in him, and it seems like a lot of Raptors fans do because of the prospect that he is, like go watch him in person or just try focusing on him a couple times when you're watching on a stream. Like you can see the gears kind of turning in real time and him figuring stuff out. He as an 18-year-old who picked up the game late, it is relying a lot on your instincts. And as a physical freak, his instincts are leading him to like averaging like over 3 blocks a game at this point. Because again, his instincts know how to get the timing right and how to get into these right spots. But then offensively, he's working in their short roll a bit more. This last game against Long Island in the win, he was 5 for 5 from the field. He's starting to get more efficient on offense, picking his spots a bit better. There was a play on defense where he was a little out of position and the guy's driving on him. He just bodied up with his chest to kind of get in the guy's way because he knows he's bigger than him. After that, he had to like check on himself because he thought he might have broken a rib because he just took that shot to the chest and how skinny he is. But he's understanding now how to use his body better as games go on. That's not something he was doing in the first game. Like you mentioned, Kyle, he was getting into a bit of foul trouble because he was using his arms a bit more than he needed to in certain situations. You're seeing the gears turn in real time for a guy who's not even 10 games into his G League career. And I think that's super exciting for an 18-year-old.
I will say that was what you just said there is exactly what Drew Jones, the 905 head coach, told me about. That's been one of the more impressive things from him is taking what he sees in film and applying it right to the on-court almost immediately. So that's been another rave review of him. Also, the three-point shot is potentially something that I don't know when this would ever be added. I believe he's only taken one this season, but you can head to my Twitter, Coty Wild Sports. I caught him taking some corner threes, and he went like 4 or 5 in the clip. Like the form, I'm no shock doctor. I don't know about you guys, but the form was looking all right. So we'll see. That's a work in progress, but he showed that 3-point shooting ability at the Basketball Academy Africa. So it is potential. There is potential there for him to add, but lots to come offensively for him.
Don't worry, Cody. I looked at the tweet. I liked it. I bookmarked it. I'm saving it because when it starts happening, we're gonna come back and be like, look, it was always there. Again, like
Yeah.
you said, in the BAL, he was taking threes once in a while. Not many, mind you, but he was willing to shoot it. And God,
Yep.
if the Raptors can find this stretch big that's an athletic freak like Rasham shape, his intangibles, and he can knock down a three once in a while, that'll change everything, I think, for the trajectory of this team. Because I think the center spot is something where like they don't have that young up and comer. It's Jakob Poeltl, who's been fantastic this season, but then with the Christian Koloko situation, how that went down, we know Chris Boucher is much older. Kelly Olynyk is obviously in the tail end of his career. After that, you have an undersized Jonathan Mobo who's fun, but is he really going to be your center of the future? Probably not. So it's interesting if you can develop a guy like this who has such a high ceiling. It's going to go a long way. But I want to go back to a different player because I don't think his season's been talked about a lot, and it's because of injuries. But he was obviously the Raptors' main draft pick in this. It was Jacoby Walter. He's dealt with these 2 shoulder injuries. He had like I think 3 or 4 games with the Raptors coming back from the first one. He got in where he could. He had a couple of minutes of flashes here and there, but really we haven't seen anything to go on. And I'm sure Raptors fans at some point are going to be like, we don't even really know about this guy, and it's been half a season. So I guess I'll go back to you, Cody. Again, at both of these games, Jacoby did play in both of them. Like, what did you see from him? What do you take away from Jacoby so far at the 905 level?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to come out with something on him. Him and Ulrich are the 2 I'm working on right now. I'm not sure how long Walter will be with the 905. Raptors are on the road right now, and the 905 are at home. So I'm assuming Walter will keep getting up to speed with the 905 here. But well, in his debut in the home opener, in 21 minutes, he led the team in points with 20. Lot of self creation reps, which is cool, which is something we like to see. Tonight, however, only 6 to 12 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, only 13 points. He was getting to the rim a lot with frequency. Like if he wasn't shooting a 3, he was pretty much getting to the rim. Seemed like he was not finishing through contact. It seemed like he was really struggling with contact around the rim, and I think that's fully to be expected of a first year rookie guard finishing at the rim. But I asked Drew about Jacoby Walter pregame and what they were specifically focusing with him, and he was talking about defense, about being a pest, being aggressive, and Drew said he's got the tools and the motor to be a high level defender. And then he also mentioned offensively to just play within himself and within the offense. I think he's just coming back, right? So not much to take offensively, but I think defensively he did show some things. I thought his screen navigation was really well done, and he had some tough matchups today. He was on Killian Hayes for a large chunk of that game. And that guy was in the NBA for, ever since he got
Lottery pick.
drafted.
Yeah.
Say what you will about him, but that's a tough matchup. That's a pretty good player. So I thought Jacoby was well. Kyle, did you catch anything else that impressed you or didn't impress you?
Honestly, for me, like his defense, that's something I wanted to watch as soon as we've heard when he got drafted, and the scouting reports were just saying his defense is one of the major upsides, and he was showing it off. He was showing off in both of these games, too, especially coming back off the injury and the way, like you said, moving around the screens, playing the on ball defense, being a pest, never letting the energy get down, and he. I'm not going to nitpick too much again because again, like when Grady was in the 905 last year, he had a couple games where he did struggle offensively, but it did the program did wonders for Grady, and I think it's going to do wonders for Jacoby as well too. Just give him some time to develop. He's going to get the hang of it. All this will evolve, and again, I'm excited to see his transition from here and then up to the big boys club.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that like there's such a focus on defense with him because like
Mhm.
I think if you went back to the draft and to the start of the season before you saw these leaps from all these players, Jacoby Walter is an insane tough shot maker and he's willing to be a quick trigger. You saw it in summer league. He'll attack at the rim and get to the free throw line. He'll take some really tough shots, and that's an exciting prospect for this Raptors team. But then you see an RJ Barrett take that leap. Then you see a Grady Dick able to do what he does, and then it's like, well, we may not need Jacoby Walter to be doing that stuff right now. I know you're named after Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, but maybe we just need you to be a 3-and-D defender for a little bit while you figure it out. So it's interesting because, like you said, Cody, Drew Jones has mentioned it. You need to be a pest. That's how you're going to get on the floor with this Raptors team. You're going to be able to do things. And in the 905, like my biggest takeaway kind of watching him for this game, and to be truthful, I caught most of the second half, was like, one, he is not shying away from contact. Like you said, Cody, he struggled through it a little bit, but he is willing to initiate and get in there with the trees. And that shoulder wasn't causing him too much of a problem from what I saw. He was willing to go to his right hand. He drove left a lot, so maybe he was a little weary of that shoulder kind of bumping it. So I don't know. But I think for the most part, he is kind of just getting back into the rhythm, and it's hard to have many impressions beyond that. But sometimes I feel like we kind of forgot we have the guy because the other rookies have played so much and that he just hasn't been a part of it. Like we're talking about the 3 J's, and we forget there's the 4th one in Jacoby Walter, the guy that was drafted 19th overall by the Raptors. So I'm hoping he can get healthy and stay healthy, and we can kind of see again. He was a very highly talked about prospect in the college game. He was very exciting to watch, and the Raptors could always use some of that. So I'm hoping he can get some more reps with the 905 to kind of see some more game on him and get more impressions of it from that. But like, I think that was a good way to sum up what the 905 week was, Cody. What do you think?
I think we touched on everything I wanted to touch on.
Sweet. Okay. So we can jump back to the big club now and start talking about the Raptors' schedule ahead. And like we said, they are on a 4-game road trip after taking on the Cavs. They stay on the road the second night of a back-to-back. Is it just me, or have they had a lot of back-to-backs to start the season? I knew we said
Yeah.
the beginning of the schedule was hard, but I feel like it's like the 4th or 5th back-to-back already. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But they're gonna take on Detroit.
This is the
on,
fifth.
on
This is the fifth back to back, by the way.
yeah,
It's
okay.
crazy.
That is
Crazy.
insane, right?
No
And
wonder they're getting injured.
we're not even 20 games through the season. How do you have 5 back-to-backs? You're not even 20 games in. Like that does not. NBA schedule makers. I don't know what's going on, but yeah. So they take on Detroit on Monday, and then you head to New Orleans on Wednesday, and then after that you have a home and home against Miami, and you get a day in between, I guess. But you're in Miami. You never know what's going to happen in Florida. People party and have some fun. That could be a bit of a struggle. But I want to know from you guys. I'll start with you, Kyle. What is your biggest thing that you want to see this week against some of these opponents? Again, mostly Eastern Conference, but there's a West team in there as well.
I know we kind of talked about it earlier in the show, but I was thinking with the team getting healthier, I want to see kind of how they move now, like will the hierarchy change? And we did talk about this before, and I know Cody is going to talk about this later with Yaka, but I want to ask you boys too. And this is kind of like a separate question I had in mind with the way he's been playing incredible. He's getting his flowers right now. He's getting attention from all over. I know Twitter's been talking about it too, like should the Raptors look to shop Jakob either this season, next season, while the value is high? What do you guys think?
No, I think they need him. I mean, it's been talked about quite a bit now. I think I'm firmly on the side of like he's needed. I get that he's playing super well and you could get stuff for him, but without him, I think like a lot of structure falls apart on both ends of the floor, and I think he just ultimately is helping everybody else develop. And I mean, I don't know this for sure, but it seems like he loves the city. We drafted him, brought him back. So I think he I think he wants to be here. He's making an average, like, I mean, at this point, he's like underpaid for what he was for. If we're talking about the last like couple of
Great deal at
games
this point.
here, yeah. But I mean, I mean, if you get, I think they'll take calls, and if you get blown out of the water, I don't think they're in a position to say no. But I wouldn't be shopping him per se.
Yeah, I think I'm in the exact same boat, Cody. You're not putting ads out for the guy because he's doing that himself with his play, but you're picking up the phone. And like you said, they're not in a position not to. You are in a rebuild, to their own words, they've said it. And when you're in a rebuild, asset accumulation is super important. And his value is arguably like the highest on the team based on what his contract is and what his value is. What I will say to people who are in the boat of like, you just got to sell high on him because he's too old and he doesn't necessarily fit. Like I know, Cody, you mentioned it. Esparahini with Raptors Public, he talks about it all the time of how he makes a guy like Scottie Barnes' job easier at times, RJ Barrett and Grady Dick with what he can do. It's like, keep in mind that like if you are going to try to get assets for Jakob Poeltl, getting a center of his ability is basically what you're hoping to get in return or replacing him with, right? Like unless you really want a generational prospect, and how likely is that? Like if you can get a Jakob Poeltl level center out of the picks that you get from Jakob Poeltl, you'd be really happy with it. Like yes, he's a bit limited. Sorry, go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to this week is now that the Raptors are getting more and more healthy, what is his play going to continue? Is it just because now he's been getting volume? Is that what it is? Because over his last 4 games before tonight, like has been phenomenal. Like 26.5 points, 14.5 rebounds, and 2.5 stocks on over 70% field goal percentage. So
Yeah.
my what I'm looking forward to is, now Scottie's truly back in the fold. We're thinking Bruce Brown's going to be back. Kelly Olynyk is slowly starting to come back, as is Emmanuel Quickly, and now Bruno Fernando's back as well. So, uh, it, touches are going to go away from him. How effective can he still be when he's not taking? I think he's taking a career high in field goal attempts per
Yeah,
game right
definitely
now.
taking the most
So,
shots he's ever taken.
I want to see if it's how much volume it is and how much can he still contribute with everyone around him.
Yeah, see, again, that's the hard part about being they are a competitive team. The Raptors are. We've talked about they're in close games, but not being a winning team. Like you focus so much on the individual talent and how they're taking steps, you kind of lose the context of it all. Like you mentioned, Cody, he's doing a lot more offensively statistically, but like he's taking more shots than he ever has. And like when those go away, like what's his impact then? You saw it in the Cleveland Cavaliers game against Jared Allen. Again, his shot wasn't necessarily going the same way as it normally does. And then Jared Allen had a really good game, kind of dominated inside the paint. The Cavs as a whole did. So like the impact went away a little bit. And how does that go when you have like those shots taken away from him? And we won't know that until we actually see it and these guys get healthy. But Kyle, I think you mentioned it a bit before, but like, is your main takeaway kind of just seeing the hierarchy? Is that what you want to get out of this week?
Yeah, that's for me. I just want to see how the team is gonna like what it's gonna look like because I know we've seen them play healthy together, but it's been so long since that. I just kind of curious of how it's gonna work with it, like if IQ were to come back with RJ, with Scotty, with all the different pieces. Like is Jakob gonna get less shots? Are they still gonna run the pick and roll as often? Like how is this gonna work? Who's gonna close the games? And it's for me, I'm just curious to see how the team's gonna work. I'm also curious to see the Detroit game how they fare against those boys. I'm predicting right now RJ might go for another career night because it's like I just have a good feeling about that game. I don't know what it is, but I feel like RJ might pop off that game. What do you guys feeling?
I mean, I'm not against it. And for my biggest thing I want to see this week, I would love to see that because I want the Raptors to win a game on the road. Like, again, we're getting to a point. They're the only team left in the NBA that hasn't won a game on the road. They're 0-9. They are like 8 points worse on the road on offense. They score 8 points less. If we're talking about the margin between home and road, that is 5th worst in the NBA. Like, we're getting to the point. One more road loss, they've tied their worst ever road start in like franchise history. Like, and you are facing a Pistons team that is competitive this year, kinda, maybe. Like they have good games, they beat the Raptors, so I guess they can't really take them lightly already. So you're gonna want to hope that you can have a game there. But that Pelicans team is what I want to see. If you don't beat the Pistons, if you are a respectable franchise, I'm sorry. This Pelicans team is bottom because of injuries, mind you, because of injuries. They are bottom 5 in offense, bottom 5 in defense. They are injury riddled. Like, I get you want to lose games competitively against the good teams. Don't get embarrassed by a team that has no business beating you. You're more talented than right now. And especially like if you don't want to break that franchise record of starting 0-10, you got to beat the Pelicans. Do it on the road, take care of business, and then you can go back to your competitive losses against the really good teams. Like that, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, or you think it's even worth it at this point. But like 0-9 on the road to start, I don't take that seriously at this point.
I mean, like, I don't know how you feel, Coty, but capture the flag, man. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But
No,
like, if you feel that way, by all means, like you can say it.
no, like I don't like honestly. I want them just like Russell Westbrook, just go out there and have fun, guys. But I think they should be the Pistons. Like I think I agree with everything you said. I feel like you got to go out there, or even the Pelicans, at least you got to get one out here. You got to show that you're not just kind of getting these competitive losses. I know we talk about it's a good thing, but at what point do we get our first win on the road?
Yeah, I'm honestly struggling to even figure out why this is a thing, like why they
Yeah,
haven't won on the road. I think it's just part of it's just like bad luck, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just, and I think Kyle, I think you kind of probably touched on it, is the late game execution that has kind of plagued them to start the year, and a lot of those missed decisions have come on the road. Loud buildings, um, just and crowd getting India, so maybe that's part of it too. So I don't think like they're doing anything differently on the road. It's just I think maybe they've played some better teams on the road. It's really just one of those things, right? Where like you said, Zulfi, if they lose against Detroit tomorrow, they're going to be 0-10 to start the year on the road, and that's the worst since
Yikes.
1997. So,
Yeah.
um, well, I guess we'll see. But it's kind of alarming how different the stats are. But what do you do? I think right now it's just one of those things to me.
that's fair. I just think for me, I always think about this season being about identity building. And like, you don't have to be a road warriors by any means, but like, again, it's building good habits, being able to take care of business. If you're just winning games at home, like at a certain point, you're going to have to turn the corner. And if you haven't figured out how to win on the road in those environments to that point, like it's going to start mattering at some point, right? And like I said, I don't think this team is as young as they're being framed as, and they're going to want to start getting there sooner than most people think. So I think I want to at least see the steps of it. Like we said against when the season started and the defense was really bad, and we talked about it needing to get at least a bit more respectable, and then you saw it, right? And then it kind of let the pressure off a little bit. Same thing with this. Like the more these losses on the road mount, the more of a conversation it's going to begin to be, and more of a narrative is going to be built around it. So this Pelicans game for me is circled on the calendar. Like this is a team that I don't see why you just don't beat outright with their injuries and with how bad they've been on both ends and with the talent on this roster. So I guess we'll come back next week and see if it actually mattered or not, or if it was a big loss or a big win. But that'll cover in terms of the schedule looking ahead. I think there's a lot to kind of like look forward to. Again, hopefully by the time we come back, there'll be more returns to talk about and more players back. I know Bruce Brown had a pretty interesting conversation. I think, Coty, you said you wanted to bring it up, and so did you, Kyle. But I guess I'll give a quick summary. Like basically, Bruce Brown was saying, like, I wasn't healthy last season. I know some fans kind of saw that and didn't like my play. And I'm paraphrasing here, but I wanted to take care of it. I want to be healthy. He seems like he's healthy now. He mentioned, I know we talked about this a lot, Coty, you and I, about like the timing of his surgery with getting that so close to the season. He basically mentioned, if I knew it was going to flare up again, I would have gotten surgery sooner, which I think is a fair way to go about it. But like, he did something that not many athletes do coming back in this midseason injury thing. He basically addressed the fan base, and he talked about like wanting to come back and kind of be something for this team. So Kyle, I'll start with you. Like, what did you make of the whole Bruce Brown thing, him potentially returning and just him addressing this whole situation?
I like it. I generally like that he addresses, because normally a lot of players won't do it. They'll kind of just ignore the news or whatever, or ignore what the fans are saying. But a lot of people were questioning him last season. I heard it from all over the place, a bunch of different shows, a bunch of different fans saying, he doesn't want to be here. You could see it, the body language. He wants to be on a contender. You could see he doesn't really care. All over the place, and him just addressing this and saying he does want to contribute to this team. I don't know. People could say he's doing it for the optics. People could say he's doing it so he doesn't lower his trade value or anything like that. But I'm just taking at what he said. I'm going to take him for his word, and the vibes are up. The vibes are up here. He wants to help. He wants to play. He's going to help the younger guys, and I'm just looking forward to what he can do when he comes back.
Here, I'll read the full quote. So, Bruce Brown, last year I didn't look really engaged or not a lot of energy like I had on previous teams. It's just because I was playing on one leg. So, I want that to be addressed because I know a lot of fans didn't think I played with a lot of energy and I didn't want to be here. That's what I've seen on social media. But I do want to be here. I want to play with these guys. I mean, we might have to blame this on Hoop Goose. I mean, we all know the the beef that was between them, where I believe Bruce Brown said, "You guys don't want me, huh?" or something like that.
Yeah, he
Um,
basically quote tweeted it, being like, "Damn, like you guys really don't like me, eh?"
yeah. But I will say, when all the Raptors players and staff and basically the whole organization was in Mississauga on Friday night for the home opener, Bruce was the last Raptor to be there. Everybody else had left. 905 were clearly going to lose. Everybody had left, and Bruce in his, I don't know if you guys saw the fit for the 905 game, the black cowboy hat and the trench coat. He was the last one there. So I'll just throw that out there.
Well, it's actually pretty cool context. Like again, you won't get that kind of information anywhere else other than Raptors
There you
Republic.
go.
So
The
stay
905.
tapped in. But yeah, like hopefully Bruce is back. We'll see how that goes. And I think the situation's very different this year for him versus being in limbo last year with a trade deadline that loomed and he didn't know if he was going to stay or not. Granted, we don't know if he's going to stay or not. He's got his contract, I'm pretty sure, is going to be up after this. So where that leads him, we don't know. But at least when he does come back this season, I think both sides, the fan base and him, have a better understanding of what his role is meant to be with this team. So that could lead him in a much more positive direction. And hopefully no more negative Twitter interactions. I mean, he had a fun one this year. He got Scottie to wear a cowboy outfit, basically, because Scottie looked at a tweet. So hopefully we can see more of that. But I think that's a nice spot to wrap it up. Again, a winning week for the Raptors in terms of the wins and losses. We can debate later if that's good for them in the long run in the franchise building. But we'll have that conversation when it matters more. We start looking at lottery odds. But in the meantime, as always, thank you guys for tuning in to Run It Back on the Raptors Public Network. I'm Zulfi with Coty and Kyle. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. RaptorsRepublic.com will have all your information, all your stuff from Lewis and Samson, as always. And the YouTube channel will keep pumping out content for you guys as the week goes on. And don't forget, fill out the survey. It takes 2 minutes. The link will be in the description. And you could potentially get $250 to spend at Fanatics, get yourself some gear. It is the holiday season as well. I'll keep plugging this as many ways as possible. You can buy gifts for people. It takes 2 minutes. Let us know how we can get better so we can keep improving our content. But until next time, when we come back to talk about everything, we are going to run it back then.